Hey guys, welcome back to the second episode of the Roblox developing series, where I'm gonna teach you everything you need to know about Roblox development from beginner all the way up to advanced. And in this episode we are going to learn, script, as I promised in the last episode. I'm going to teach you how to script this part properly and pretty much do whatever you want with this part in a script. So how do you actually script stuff? So for scripting, the first thing you need to know is the server script service thing. So this service basically allows you to store scripts where you can code, obviously, and it cannot be touched by anyone, so it can only be touched by you. So it's only server-sided scripts. It cannot be touched by hackers. So this is where you generally store your scripts. You can also store your scripts in other areas like your workspace, but then generally for server scripts you'd be storing them in this little area here. So what do you actually do to add a script? So what you want to do is you want to hover around this, press the plus icon, and you just search up script. Oh, I cannot spell. Yeah, there. So once you search up script, you'll see three different types of scripts. So you'll see a normal script, a local script, and a module script. So for now we'll ignore these two scripts over here, and we're only going to focus on the normal script one, and this is what you're going to use for server-sided scripts. So once you open this up, you're going to find this print hello world statement. You can just delete this, we don't need it for now. So from the previous episode, you should have already learned everything about a part, so its properties and stuff like that. But now, what if you want to change like this part's property? Like, let's say, I don't know, you want to change the transparency of this part, or you want to change like the color of this part, or like the size of the part. But you want to change the size and the color, and you want to change these attributes through a script. How do you do that? And you might be asking, Sudi, why do you even need to do that when you can just change it like manually over here? So let's say, I don't know, you're playing a game and you want a block to change color constantly. Like, let's say you touch a block and you want the block to change color when you touch it, to indicate, like, for example, you've completed a level. How do you do that? You won't be able to do that manually, and you need to do that through a script. So you need to do it if the person touches the block, it changes whatever attribute you wanted to change. So how would you actually change that attribute? So that is what we're going to do over here right now. So first of all, before we get into anything, I want to teach you how to reference this part. So referencing is basically like knowing what this part is inside of the script. Like, you have to tell what this part is to the script. So to do that, what you want to do is, first of all, you already know that this part is in the workspace, as you can see over here, and it is called just part. You can change its name, but for now we're just going to leave it a part. So how do you actually reference it? To reference it, for everything you want to reference in the workspace, what you start with is game.workspace. So you always start off with that if you want to find something in the workspace. So why do we do this? So what the game data model actually gives us is the entire game. So imagine this as everything that is in the game. All right, if you put game, it automatically, you can get these things over here. Now if you do dot, you can find a lot of things over here. For example, workspace, replicated storage, you can see everything over here is also listed over here. So we want to get something from the workspace, so we just write workspace like that. That way we're now looking through workspace. The script knows that I want to get something from the workspace, so it is looking through the workspace. Now if you press another dot, you can find what you want to find in the workspace. So I want to get this part, and it is called just part. So if I do part, you can see things start coming up, and over here there's part, and just like that, this is how we find the part. And let's say I want to change, for example, the part's transparency. I can just put another dot, and this way now I look inside of the part, and by looking inside of the part I mean the properties over here. So I can do dot transparency like that. If it's already filled up like this and it's highlighted, you can just press tab and it'll automatically fill out. And this way we can change the transparency of the object. So if we just reset this real quick and we add a fresh new part, right? We have this. We can see the value of this, the part's transparency is 0. If we do game.workspace.part.transparency, it is first going through the game, so looking at everything over here, then going to the workspace only. Just only looking to the workspace. Then it's going to the part, so it's looking through the part's properties, and then it is going to the part's transparency now. And if you do game.workspace.part.transparency is equal to, let's say we want to make it 0.5, okay? So you can just put that, and now if you run this script, I just press run like that, you can see that the transparency of the object changes. Just like that. You can see if you go to the part right now, it's at 0.5. But once you stop the game, it will go back to its default setting. Now let's say you want to change something else about the part. Like for example, along with its transparency, you want to change like its brick color. What would you do? So you just press enter once and you do the same exact thing again. So you do game.workspace.part, part, there we go, and then dot, and here you'll see all the parts like properties, and you can just put in brick color just like that. And then for brick color, it's a bit different than, like for example, just putting in a number. What you have to do is you can't even put in the names. You have to do something like this. You have to do brick color dot new, and then you can put in the name. If you put the quotation, and then once you do brick color dot new and then put in these brackets and put quotation marks in them, you'll be able to find all the colors just like that. There's some weird looking colors over here, so I can just double click on that, and you can see that it fills out. And now if I run the script again, oh, its color did not change. Why is that? Let's do a better color. Let's do like really red. Let's see what happens now. You can see now the color changes. Maybe that color just wasn't strong enough for us to see, but as you can see, you can change colors of objects just like that. And yeah, you have for brick color, it is brick color not new. Now if you want to do just color, it's again different for just color. If you want to do just color, it's color 3 dot new, color 3 not new, sorry. You do color 3, and then once you do dot, it will prompt you a lot of things. So there's dot new from RGB, from, and then there's a lot of other things. So these, you just basically input the numbers. So for RGB, you'd input the RGB numbers, or you can select these things and it'll allow you to actually select the color and automatically transform that into an RGB value. Same goes for everything else. So if you do, for example, for put dot new, and you can set it to whatever color you want, it will transform it automatically. And now if you run it, you'll be able to see that it changes just like that. Same thing goes for pretty much any other property. So for example, game.workspace.part. Let's see, I want to make it anchored, right? Let's put it up. I hope you guys know what anchored means from the last episode. So if I want to anchor this, I can do that. And then is anchored is a Boolean value, so it's either true or false, which we'll get into in a second. I can just put true, and that would mean that the part is now anchored and it won't fall off, just like that. Now let's take some other things into account. Let's say you rename your part and you rename it to like a number like 78. Now if you just simply try to reference it as 78, you'll see you get a red line under this and it'll give you an error, and if you run it, it is not going to work. As you can see, the transparency is the same, and you can see you get an error in your output. Now why is that? This is because you can only take in a string. Like if you reference your part like this, or if you reference anything in the game like this, with the dots, then you'll have to make sure that the name is a string. But what do you do if the name is not a string, right? This is how you reference it. Instead of putting a dot after game.workspace, you do these square brackets, you put quotation marks, and then you can put the name of the object, 78, just like that. And now if we run it, you can see that it works just like that. And you can do it for anything. It doesn't have to be a number. You can put any name over here. Let's say you have like, let's rename this, and let's say you call this my favor, oh my lord, I cannot spell part, just like that. Now, as it has spaces, if you try referencing the traditional way, my favorite part, you can see that it'll error once again. When you have spaces also, you have to reference it the same way as before. So you do that, and then my favorite part. And this way, you're able to also reference name with spaces. And you can run it, and you can see that it works, just like that. Now, let's say you have it named, let's say you change this one's name to gravity. All right. Now, if you change, so when you press workspace over here, you'll see that workspace has a lot of properties, and one of the properties is called, over here you can see it's called gravity, right? But then inside the workspace, there's also gravity, right? There's also a part called gravity. So if you call it the traditional way, which one is it going to choose? Is it going to choose the property, or is it going to choose the actual part? If you run it, you'll see that it will error. And you can see it errors because if there is a property with the same name as something in like the workspace, it's gonna choose the property. It takes like weight over it. So you might think that you can't like name something the same as that, same as a property. You can't name a part the same as a property, but actually you can, and this is how you do it. So to call it, you do game.workspace like usual because you're searching for something in the workspace. Then you do colon, and then you do find first child, just like that. That way, what it's gonna do is instead of going to the through the workspace properties, it's gonna find the first child inside of the workspace. And if you put colon here, and then you can do gravity, right? This is gonna take the part. This is not gonna take the property of workspace. This is gonna take the part called gravity inside of the workspace, and you can do dot transparency, and then you can do equals to 0.5, and if you run this, you'll be able to see that it is half transparent. There we go. That is good. Now you also have to make sure that everything is spelled correctly, because this is like, it's case sensitive, and everything has to be spelled correctly. So if you do a lowercase g instead of a capital G, you can see it's named with a capital G, but you put a lowercase g, you're gonna get an error on the output, because as you can see, attempt to index null, because there's nothing with a small g, it's with a capital G. Same goes with something like workspace. If you workspace, if you do workspace, if you like don't have the K by mistake, you're also gonna get an error, just like that. You can't find anything called workspace in a game because it's workspace, it's not workspace. So you have to be really careful with your spelling. Am I missing anything else? All right, I found out what I was missing. So let's say you have two parts in your workspace, and let's say I have two parts and they're called the same thing. So let's call this like, I don't know, my part, and let's also call this my part. So if I have that, and if I do my part right here, or we can do it the traditional way with the dot, right? Game that works. So which one, as there's two of the same parts, which one is it gonna reference? Actually, it's just gonna reference one of them. It's not gonna reference both of them. It's gonna reference one of them. So you have to make sure your things aren't the same. You have to, for example, this one can be my part 1 and this one can be my part 2. And that way you can do my part 1, and then you can copy this to a different line and do the same for my part 2, right? And this way you can do both parts, but make sure that no two parts, if you're going to reference them, are named the same. So as you guys know how to reference stuff properly now, we can look into some other properties of the part. So for example, let's say you want to take this part and you want to change the position of it to something like somewhere up here. So how would you do that? So you do the exact same thing. You do game.workspace. Oh my lord, I can't spell today. And then as it's called part, you just do part. And then for position, you just do dot position. And over here, when you do dot position, you can see that position is a vector 3 value. So what does that mean? So a vector 3 value is, it takes up three values: the x value, the y value, and the z value. So right now you can see the position value, the three values over here. So this is the x value, this is the y, and this is the z value. So you can, what you can do is you can do vector3 dot new. This is how you do a vector3 value, and then you can put in whatever position you want. So for right now, the position is this for this part over here. And let's say I want to take the x value and I want to make it like -85. The y value, I want to make it like 10, and the z value, I want to make 40. So what it basically is in a 3D world, there's three ways you can go. So the x values, you can see, you'll probably have this thing somewhere on your screen. So the x and z values are like the you know, these, what's it called, horizontal. I think horizontal is sideways, so it's like sideways. Then vertical, I think it's upwards. I am not good with my words, god. So if you want to change the upwards, so if you want it to move like up or down, you change the y value. If you want to do the sideways values, you can change the x and z value. So let's say it's right here right now, and if I run the script, as you can see, it's changing the position of it. If I run it, you can see that the position of it changes from there to here, and as it's not anchored, it falls down. And once I stop it, it goes back to its original position. You can do the same with size, as size is also a vector3 value. I can make the size of it like 5, 5, and 5 on each axis. And you can see right now the size is 4, 1, 2, and I made it 5, 5, and 5. So when I run it, you can see it changes size. Same thing with orientation. If I do orientation is also a vector3 value, so I can change it to like 45, 45, 45 degrees on each side. And if I press play, you can see changes. You can see that it changed this orientation. But if I anchor it, I think you'll be able to see it a bit better. So now as it's anchored, you can see that it's changed its orientation. You can see it there. And then let's say you want to change its material. As you can see right now, it's plastic, and you want to change this material to something else. What would you do? So if you do material over here, you can see that the thing is enum.material. So what is enum.material? So if you do enum.material and then do dot, you can see all the different materials there are. So I can do like cobblestone, and I can run it, and you can see that the material of the part, oh, it should change. There we go, it changed. It took a bit of time, but it changed, right? Just like that. And what enum is pretty much, it holds a lot of stuff. So like material, easing directions, and stuff like that. It just holds a lot of stuff pretty much, which are in lists. And yeah, that's pretty much it about the part and how to control it from the script. And that's it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to take notes, because this stuff is really important. If you don't understand this stuff, you won't understand the complex stuff. In the next episode, I'll be talking about variables, data types, printing, and also some basic Roblox functions, so that you can, you know, actually make some sort of mini game by yourself. And yeah, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next one, and peace.